sees the memes of production, and the like and subscribe button. You're interpreting it as a personal attack when I'm factually describing like your burrito taxi based on willingness to go out and fight in a riot. I'm not attacking you. I'm describing a system that envelops all of us. But by you thinking I'm the enemy for saying that, what you're essentially saying is you want bullshit and dishonesty. You want me to like give you a LARP speech about how like the West is rising up or like you know, we're not going to take it. No, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore, which you will consume from the comfort of your bed, which you haven't left since like, you know, 3 a.m. last night. Don't get mad at me. Also, I do work off stream, you know. I have to like do emails, and sometimes people are mad at me over the email and I have to read it. To be fair, you could stream longer. Sure. And I could make the streams less interesting if you prefer. There are people who stream like 8 hours a day, and I've seen some of their streams, and I think there is a inverse relationship between the length of streams and the moment by moment like interest of them, you know? I think there is. That's no hate to like Hassan or anyone who does those longer ones, you know? I just think that like in terms of like energy wane off or whatever, if you're just riffing out here, I think 3 to 4 hours, sometimes in the longer days 5 hours, good energy the whole way through. At least I try. I know I've listened. Okay, this is genuinely covering all this stuff. It does tire me out a little bit. Okay, listen, it's my country too. Now I was getting defensive. Do you think that's defensiveness? You can't talk earnestly with people because everyone's looking for a gotcha, you know? Is there anything PV can do to help address this judiciary problem? I'll ask them if they, if anyone in the organization is a U.S. senator. There was no reason to call me stupid. King Jar Jerk, you have been here for way too long to get upset about me calling you stupid. Come on. Okay, listen. Okay, maybe you're having a peevish day, but this is a level of banter to which you should have been inoculated years ago. Okay. I've read your name out loud many, many times. If you think this means anything, okay? Calling people stupid as a live streamer is a rhetorical device you use to thread. It might as well be an article. Well, I tried to sneak it in. Yeah. Like a lot of the folks in here have the energy to do more, but they need the framework, and there are plenty of chatters who actually do the work you're always talking about. Yeah, and I know that. I know that because people email me about the canvassing or activism they've done, and I always feel wonderful when I see that. However, if you're doing that work, you should not be getting defensive about me making jokes about the average person being lazy and you know, content. Because come on, for one, you know it's true, and for two, like, I apologize that my broad descriptions don't address the reality of, you know, 7,000-8,000 people watching at a time. Come on, you got to know we're framing rhetorical devices here. We're weaving a tale. Seriously, Vaush, I know you're on this everything is nihilism bit, but you could not be further off pace. Wait, I didn't say everything's nihilism. Also, off pace on what? Uh-oh, wait, you're actually mad at me. Oh, you're the person who said that I work 3 hours a day and complain about being tired all the time. You're the one, you're actually mad. Wait, hold on. A ton of us actually go out and do the community organizing you always talked about. That was the whole point of PV. I'm essentially saying you're misreading the post, the people dumbass. Okay, if you actually were going out and doing something, I don't think you'd be reacting this way. This is kind of me armchair projecting, like I'm beaming a ray of analysis directly into your brain. But I think that if you were actually doing something, you wouldn't be this mad because you would know I'm not talking about you. People who react this way are usually upset because they don't like feeling called out. But what you have to understand is that when I'm talking to a group of people, I'm not talking to you specifically. If you stay quiet, I don't actually know anything about you in relation to the statement that I'm making. I could hop on any stream and go over community organizing, local orgs, efficacy, and protesting. That's good. Honest God, please have me on or someone talk. Oh, come on. And talk about how to work within community. You said you would back immediately. You would back immediately post-election, but you never did? Wait, you said you would back immediately post-election, but you never did. I'm not sure. But they're typing quickly. So it's okay. I'm pretty bad at typing. I can't really fault someone for quickly typing and making a mistake. Says folks with an X. The energy is there. You really did say. It's all psychological, right? It's not really a personal thing. Unfortunately, like the truth is, and if you disagree with this, you're just, in my opinion, a bit delusional. The energy is not here in the United States, you know? It's a sick, diseased country. And I do think it's because of comfort. I do think that. I do think it's true. That like you can see like it's part of it's a cultural thing as well, because if you go to like France, for example, they're all like, you know, shoveling on people's doorstops over like the retirement age being raised by 1 day or something. So I think part of it is like, you know, what's considered acceptable, or what's considered, you know, like a normal thing to do. But I think to a large extent, it's just that like when people are desperate, they're willing to fight for more, and when people aren't desperate, they're not. It's unfortunate. I don't know if it's because of them dang iPhones or whatever, but like, man, the relationship between how rapidly the country is being torn apart and how quiet people are about it is shocking, isn't it? Like, even back during the first Trump administration, the vibe was very, very, very different, right? You had all these like resist libs and, you know, people screaming out in the streets, and what Trump did in his entire first term already is nothing compared to what's happened so far the second. Like, not even remotely close, you know? Like exponentially worse so far the second term. And yet, I don't think it's phone, just classic short-sightedness. Well, I mean, sure, but like people in general are short-sighted, right? But that's like fine. We only live so long, right? We're dealing with institutions that often, you know, outlive people quite a bit. Haven't there been weekly protests? There are always weekly protests. But the country is being torn apart, man, okay? Remember Euromaidan? The that Yanukovych was trying to get through in Ukraine was significantly, like, it was not as bad as what the Trump administration's doing right now, but they had like massive, like huge, everyone, like millions of people, you know? Look at Greece, right, with the collapse of their train station, and I mean, even like Serbia recently. It just, I don't know, it just seems like it's a comfort and culture thing. Comfort and culture, right? We are culturally complacent and we are quite comfortable. Even the poor in America, in a relative sense, are complacent. Not to say their lives are easy. It's more of a accommodation thing. Because we lack public squares or something. Type shit. And the delicious treats too. And the delicious treats. I think the delicious treats are definitely a big part of it, yeah. Everything's so abstracted too. It seems like people need to suffer immensely, at least relative to how much they're suffering right now, for them to, you know, get up and meaningfully do something. Like they say, everyone's like 3 missed meals away from a riot, and I do think that's true. So I guess people just need to start missing meals. Like, I don't know. I mean, at what point? Like we're kind of on like the eve. We're in like the twilight of the democracy, of a functioning judiciary. So like if an actual like informed political uprisings off the table, which it seems like it kind of is, you know, if it's just people like throwing rocks around because they're upset that they're dying because no Medicaid, they got cut off Medicaid, or no one gets food or whatever, or water, you know, water wars down in the Southwest. I don't know. It's pretty bad. It's not going to go on for long. Something's going to break pretty soon, I imagine. You got to get off saying chat's lazy / uneducated, even if it is true for a lot. No, I'm sorry. If I kowtow to like sparing chat's feelings, then it's over. Like I said, mutual contempt is the dynamic we have to preserve here. Okay. I have few comforts now in engaging with the news. One of my last remaining comforts now is looking at chat and making fun of them, even if it's totally undeserved. Even if it doesn't, and you can't be mad at that because you're a chatter. You all scream late when I'm not late. What are you gonna get mad at me? We're not doing a damn hug box in here. It is done lovingly. It is done lovingly, okay? You gotta say stuff like you could be doing more. Well, unfortunately, with regard to the like decline of this country, I am starting to think there's literally nothing that we can do. You know, I'm not one of those like fake it till you make it types with regard to political organizing. I do like to be honest with people when it comes to like what I think you can do. And, you know, I'm not interested in giving people a bunch of prescriptive statements about rearranging deck chairs in the Titanic. There are meaningful things that can be done. I do, for example, think like working with PV, like the, you know, getting the right folks elected. I do think that makes a difference. But like in the broader scope of things, it does feel a bit like deck chairs on the Titanic. A bit. Can non-Americans do anything? Yeah, be nice to us when we move to your countries. You could always claim it's always darkest before the dawn. I mean, sure, I could like say anything. I mean, well, yeah, sure. But like, okay, I could say whatever I like, you know? Unfortunately, if it is darkest before the dawn, if we take that to be true, which it is not necessarily, that's how it works with the sky, not necessarily with like history, you know? Sometimes you don't really know when the darkest is. This is not the darkest. Definitely not. Worry about yourself, no. What is it about this subject that makes people act so weird? As an ancestor of enslaved Americans, or sorry, Africans, You're not going to win anything by feeling resigned and defeated. I'm trying to think how mean I should be to you for a sentiment that I broadly agree with, but I think is being misapplied here. I'm not entirely sure what it is you're angry with or what you're disagreeing with necessarily. You know, I guess I don't understand what the rebuttal is or what the point being made is. If you think this is like a doomer stream, you probably don't actually watch that much political content. Unfortunately, things are genuinely very bad right now, you know? I think that unfortunately a lot of people, you know what? I can thread this needle. This comes back to comfort. A lot of you watch this for wish fulfillment. The same reason you watch lefty content, not necessarily to educate yourself, but the entertainment of seeing people you dislike being epically owned in debate, or you know, the belief that the world is getting better. You know, you like being kept on a roller coaster of information being fed, but roller coasters aren't random. They need to have the right pacing to them, the way they go up and down. You don't like that this one's been going down for a while. You're getting bored of it. I'm sorry, that's not how life works, and I'm not here to bullshit you. Like I enjoy the format of the streams as a way of engaging with the information, you know, but I'm not going to be here like, well, I think based on all the signs I can see that this is properly like over, but I need to like do a rousing speech. Ah, come on. That's ridiculous. It's not a movie. It's not structured in 3 arcs, okay? I'm just sharing with you what I think is true. That's it. And trying to be constructive with it, which is the rice and beans thing, you know. I really do mean that, by the way. I really do mean the rice and beans thing, okay? Because, like, listen, it's not even government policy, okay? Life will be imposing austerity on all of us, you know, in varying extents, of course. I mean, you know, I'll buy a pair of shoes now and again, I imagine. Hopefully. God, I hope so. But there will be rice and there will be beans. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable, at least on a subconscious level, because they're not too different from the frustrated far-righters that want to destroy society because they themselves don't really care if that happens in practice because they're not doing anything to prevent it. I think you're halfway onto something. I think it's more that people are caught in a superposition right now where people desperately want something to happen. People desperately want change, but they want the change and the something to happen to always be tomorrow. They always want it to be like an excitement, even like a nervous excitement about the ability for the world to continue turning and for the material conditions to shift and so on. But they don't want to live through that. They want to anticipate it, right? Like, people clearly derive joy from the, like, it's all happening, it's finally happening, it's over. People love that shit. They consume it in enormous amounts. There's a huge bias towards anything that breaks the, like, cycle of apathy, something that gives you the feeling of, like, well, things are happening. Finally, I didn't engage with all this political theory for nothing, you know? I didn't learn about surplus value just to live an 83-year life watching nothing change except middling policy adjustments to the you know, Federal Reserve monetary policy and like taxes and stuff. Finally, something's happening. It turns out stuff happening is actually like really scary. So a lot of people are like, now that we're there, a lot of people are pulling back and they're like, hold on, hold on. Well, okay, by something happening, what we mean is like a glorious protest against fascism that the outcome of which is like we rise up as a nation. And it's like, well, no, actually, like, look at history. That's often not how it goes, you know? I think people have, you know, yeah, people are idealizing the living in interesting times a little bit, but I think that people are also like, well, okay, but let's make the interesting times, like, let's structure it a little to our favor. Let's, you know, it's not going to be that bad, right? And then people get mad at me when it seems like it will be that bad. Just my opinion. I mean, I don't know. You had a thing early on this year about how fascism wouldn't work if treatlers didn't get their delicious treats. Yeah, I still think there's some truth to that, but unfortunately, like, we haven't yet seen that, like, bear fruit, right? Like, right now, the economy is still functioning, like, more or less as you'd expect it to, so we haven't seen the public backlash. We'll see how things change. I mean, eventually, right, the consequences will come home. Yes, I read the YouTube chat sometimes. What really scares me is the fact that climate change will probably bring humanity close to extinction. Nah, don't worry. Trump's engaging in economic degrowth. It'll be fine. America doesn't even have a middle-of-the-road interesting times, the despair movement. Maybe, I don't know. It seems like a lot of stuff is downstream of the fact that America doesn't really have any legacy culture, you know? Not much, at least compared to a lot of other countries. Like, America is wealthy enough that it could build basically the ideal convenience country where nobody had to think about anything or participate in society. And it turns out it was a nightmare. You know, interchanges and highways and cars and parking lots everywhere. But it was all built from convenience, right? Like everyone, that like cars are undeniably convenient. We didn't really think about how it would play out in the long run. You know? Maybe not. Life is about to get very inconvenient. Maybe. But it's also possible that for the majority of Americans, life is going to continue to be more or less fine. Slowly worsening, but still more or less fine. I mean, we're pretty high up on the totem pole of creature comfort, right? Like maybe, you know, the media stays suppressed. The administration is insane, but there are enough like corporatists in it that they kind of keep the ship more or less steered in the right direction. We keep randomly tariffing and untariffing countries in the EU and whatever, but it doesn't matter too much because, you know, corporate profits were already so high that the Trump administration is capable of like tamping down on them a little bit. So instead, customers only end up eating like a 10% price hike. And hey, people did that under Biden, right? There was complaining, but the complaining was almost like entirely fueled by right-wing media. So if the right-wing media is instead saying, actually, everything's cheaper than ever before, and if you ever notice otherwise, it's because of China, maybe people won't notice. Maybe it'll be like the frog boiling in the water, except it boils so slowly that the frog dies of old age and never realizes that when it died, the water was far, far warmer than it was, you know, when the frog first hopped in there. And then 100 years from now, people are like, hey, did you know that 100 years ago things were different? And people were like, nah, I didn't know that because they didn't teach us it. Anyway, things right now are probably fine, and things right then are not fine. That would be bleak. Of course, dark matter, yeah, 100%. But it might just be like that. I don't know. Maybe it is the Chinese century. No joke.